I am at IAB Engage 2016 and I'm here with Ravleen Beeston, who is Bing UK's head of sales. You were just talking about on stage about sort of artificial intelligence and what Microsoft's up to in that area. Obviously, you sort of look after Bing in the UK. I don't necessarily think of AI or bots or that sort of interactive kind of stuff when I think about Bing. I think about sort of typing in a search query. So how are those two things going to connect in future?
The way that search is actually generally being used now is the richness of the intelligence that comes from it, right? The data which is being used, to inform into marketing strategies, helping brands to understand a bit more about their consumers. The key being the way that the capabilities within search are being used to innovate in the AI space. And one of those examples is on a very basic level is that Bing powers Alexa and Siri, in fact. So the way that Bing or other search engines can be almost threaded into the background of other products. And that's how I see, and we do already see, AI having search integrated and search playing that critical role actually in enabling AI.
Alexa has been in the news a lot, and Amazon's Echo coming to the UK. And certainly one question sort of we've been asking is how can brands make use of AI? Because on Alexa, for example, there's a whole sort of app-like structure where a brand can create a skill, and it means they can do anything from a user can do anything from ask for a recipe to kind of ask the weather, and so there's lots of interactions they can have with brands through this kind of skill setup. So on a Cortana, for example, how could a brand start thinking about using sort of AI and it's a sort of new interface we're talking about here. So how should brands be navigating that?
Voice search is probably something that we look to our brands to and say, hey, look, we can provide the technology and the interface for you to innovate through voice search. But how you want to interact with your consumer, that has to come from you, because that's different for every brand, dependent on what they're trying to achieve. And I think if they want to really move their consumers from text searching to voice searching, there has to be a convenience factor there. There's got to be a reason for that consumer to think, yeah, I'd rather actually use voice search here than be using text search. And I think that's the key thing that a lot of brands still have to crack.
Where do you foresee the sort of barriers around voice search? Sort of how are consumers going to start getting on board with that new way of searching? What's it going to sort of take to kind of shunt them in that direction?
One thing which happens with any new technology really is the fragmentation of the technology and the quality then of the different ways in which you can access that technology. And we talked about, Alexa and Siri and Cortana, but there are tons of voice search interfaces, and you can't control the quality of what all of those will be. So I think one of the challenges that industry or that trend has is how do you have an experience which makes everybody want to use that kind of technology.
Ravleen, thank you so much for joining me. Cheers.
Ad blocking's been around for years and years. It's selectively choosing to ignore ads. It's just we have a way of measuring it. So because we